The sky above their world was no longer blue. It burned in deep red and dark smoke, as if the planet itself was slowly dying. Huge cities that once touched the clouds now stood broken and silent. Towers were cut in half. Roads were empty. No lights. No life. Only ruins. He stood at the highest command tower, looking over what was left of his people. He was their last commander. Once, he had led great fleets across the stars. Now, he was leading survivors. The enemy had come without warning. No one knew where they came from. No one knew what they wanted. They did not speak. They did not stop. They only destroyed. Every defense had failed. Their strongest ships were gone. Their shields had fallen. Their weapons had done nothing. It was like fighting a storm that could not be stopped. He closed his eyes for a moment. The sounds of distant explosions echoed across the land. Each one felt like a heartbeat fading away. There were not many left now. Inside the command room, the last group of officers waited. Their faces were tired. Some were injured. Some had lost everything. But they were still standing. "Status?" he asked quietly. One of them looked at the screen and answered, "Enemy forces are moving closer. We have less than one cycle before they reach this location." Silence filled the room. They all understood what that meant. This was the end. He walked slowly toward the main console. His hands were steady, but his heart was heavy. There was only one thing left to do. "Prepare the signal," he said. The officers looked at him. Some were surprised. Some already knew. "You still believe someone will hear us?" one asked. He did not answer right away. Then he said, "We do not send it because we believe. We send it because we have no other choice." No one argued. They moved quickly. Systems came online one last time. Energy was redirected from life support to communication systems. It was a risk, but it did not matter anymore. A single message began to form. Simple. Clear. Honest. "If anyone can hear this, we are under attack. Our world is falling. We need help. This is our last call." He watched as the message was prepared. This was not a proud signal. Not a strong one. It was a cry. "Send it," he ordered. The signal shot into space, moving faster than anything they had left. It passed through broken satellites, dead ships, and silent stars. It carried their final hope into the unknown. Then, nothing. The room went quiet again. Minutes passed. Then hours. No reply. Some of the officers lowered their heads. Others just stared at the screens, hoping for something, anything. Outside, the sky grew darker. Another explosion shook the tower. "They are getting closer," someone whispered. Still no reply. Time moved slowly, like it did not want to end. The commander remained standing. He did not move. He did not speak. He simply watched. Then suddenly. A sound. A small, sharp signal tone. Everyone froze. "Repeat that," one officer said quickly. The system beeped again. Incoming signal detected. All eyes turned to the main screen. "That's not possible," someone said. The signal was weak, but it was real. The system began to decode it. Unknown language. Unknown origin. The room filled with quiet tension. No one breathed. "Translate," the commander said. The system worked fast. Symbols changed. Words formed. And then, the message appeared. Message received. Help is on the way. No one spoke. No one moved. The commander stared at the screen, his mind racing. Help? From who? He stepped closer. Track the source, he ordered. The system responded. Location, far beyond known space. Unidentified. He whispered, almost to himself, who answered us. Outside, the red sky continued to burn. But for the first time, there was something else. Hope. And fear. The signal did not stop. It stayed on the screen, repeating again and again. Message received. Help is on the way. No one in the room spoke. It felt unreal. After so much silence, after so much loss, something had finally answered. The commander stood still, his eyes fixed on the words. He had sent that message with no hope left. It was only a final act, not a plan. And yet, someone had heard it. Lock the signal, he said. The officers moved quickly. Their hands shook, but they worked with focus. The system scanned the incoming transmission again and again, trying to understand more. Signal is stable, one officer said. But the origin, it's very far. How far? The commander asked. The officer hesitated, then replied, beyond all known systems. Outside mapped space. A quiet fear spread across the room. They had studied many races. They knew the patterns of the galaxy. But this was different. Can we identify the sender? Another officer asked. No clear match, came the reply. The language was auto-translated. Original format is unknown. The commander looked at the screen again. The message was simple. No threats. No conditions. Just help. But simple things could be dangerous. Open full scan, he ordered. Check for movement. Energy. Anything. Sensors powered up. Weak systems pushed beyond their limits. The planet had little energy left, but they used it anyway. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then suddenly. Contact, an officer shouted. All eyes turned. Multiple objects entering outer system range. The commander stepped forward. Show me. The screen changed. At first, there was nothing but small lights. Then the system zoomed in. Shapes appeared. Ships. Many ships. The room went silent again. How many? The commander asked. The officer's voice was low. Counting, still counting. More dots kept appearing on the screen. Hundreds. The number kept rising. No, thousands. A cold feeling spread through the room. This was not a small rescue. This was a fleet. The ships moved in formation. Not perfect. Not clean. But strong. Like a moving wall. Zoom further, the commander said. The image sharpened. The ships looked strange. They were not smooth like advanced alien designs. They were rough. Heavy. Covered in marks. Some looked damaged, but still active. They look old, one officer said. No, another replied. They look used. The commander understood. These ships were not made for show. They were made for war. Energy readings, he asked. The officer checked, then looked up with surprise. High, very high. Weapons systems active. The room grew tense. They came ready to fight, someone whispered. The commander crossed his arms. His mind was racing. This was not normal. Unknown race. Unknown technology. Massive fleet. And they answered without asking anything. Open a channel, he said. The system tried. No response, the officer said. They are not answering direct communication. The fleet continued to move closer. Slow. Steady. Like they already knew where to go. Another alert suddenly appeared. Enemy forces reacting, an officer said quickly. On another screen, dark shapes moved. The enemy fleet. They had been closing in on the planet. But now, they were turning toward the new arrivals. They see them, the commander said. The two forces were now on a direct path. Silence filled the room again. Are they allies, or something worse? One officer asked quietly. No one answered. Then, a new signal appeared. Stronger than before. Direct. The system auto-opened it. A voice came through. Clear. Calm. Different. This is Human Fleet Command. The word echoed in the room. Human. No one had heard of them. The voice continued. We received your distress call. The commander stepped closer to the console. Every word felt heavy. We are here to assist. The room was frozen. Human. Unknown. But they came anyway. The commander spoke softly, almost in disbelief. Humans. On the screen, the massive fleet kept moving forward. And for the first time, the enemy had stopped advancing. They were waiting for what was coming next. The silence did not last long. The moment the human fleet crossed deeper into the system, everything changed. Enemy forces are moving again, an officer shouted. On the main screen, the dark enemy ships began to spread out. They did not rush forward like before. This time, they moved with caution. The commander noticed it immediately. They are hesitating, he said. That had never happened before. The enemy had always attacked without pause. Without fear. Without doubt. But now, they were careful. The human fleet continued forward. No sudden moves. No panic. Just a slow, steady advance. Distance closing, the officer reported. They will meet in open space. The commander watched closely. His hands were behind his back, tight but controlled. Still no response to our signals, he asked. No, Commander, came the reply. They only sent that one message. He nodded slowly. They did not come to talk, he said. The screen zoomed in again. The human ships were clearer now. They were large. Not elegant. Not perfect. Some had visible damage. Burn marks. Broken edges. But they were still moving, still holding formation. They don't look like a peaceful race, one officer said. The commander answered quietly, good. A new alert appeared. Enemy weapons charging. The dark fleet began to glow with cold energy. Lines of light moved across their surfaces. The same weapons that had destroyed everything before. The room grew tense. They are going to fire, someone whispered. The commander did not move. Watch, he said. The first shot came without warning. A bright beam cut across space, heading straight toward the human fleet. It hit. A human ship took the impact. The room held its breath. The light faded. The ship was still there. Damaged, but not destroyed. They survived, an officer said in shock. Before anyone could react. The human fleet answered. Not with one shot. But with many. A storm of fire exploded from their ships. Different colors. Different shapes. Some beams, some fast-moving projectiles. Some things the system could not even understand. Multiple weapon types detected, the officer reported. The enemy ships were hit. Explosions lit up the dark space. For the first time, the enemy line broke. They are falling back, someone shouted. The commander leaned forward slightly. No, they are adjusting. The enemy regrouped quickly. They changed formation, spreading wider. Then they attacked again. This time, faster. More aggressive. The human fleet did not move back. They moved forward. Collision course, an officer asked in disbelief. Yes, another replied. They are closing the distance. The commander's eyes narrowed. They want close combat. That was dangerous. Very dangerous. But the humans did not slow down. More human ships joined from behind. Even more than before. New arrivals detected, the officer said. The fleet is still growing. How many do they have? Someone asked. No one could answer. The battle grew louder. Explosions. Flashes. Shaking signals. The screen struggled to keep up. Then. A human voice came through again. Short. Clear. No one gets left behind. The words felt simple. But heavy. The commander felt something strange in his chest. Not fear. Something else. The enemy launched a massive attack. A wave of energy rushed toward the human front line. Several human ships were hit. 2, 3, gone. Destroyed. The room fell silent again. But then. The remaining ships did not retreat. They pushed forward even harder. They lost ships, but they are still attacking, an officer said. They are not stopping, another added. The commander understood now. These humans, he said slowly, they do not fight to survive. He paused. They fight to protect. The human fleet broke through the first enemy line. Close-range weapons fired. Enemy ships exploded one after another. The Dark Fleet began to lose control. They are being pushed back, the officer shouted. For the first time since the war began. The enemy was losing ground. The commander stared at the battle. At the strange ships. At the unknown race. At the force that answered a dying call without question. Humans, he said quietly. They came, ready for war. And far above the broken planet. The battle had only just begun. The battle did not slow down. It grew louder. Brighter. More dangerous. Space itself looked like it was tearing apart under the pressure of constant fire. Explosions flashed like sudden stars. Broken ships drifted in silence before vanishing into darkness. Energy levels across the system are unstable, an officer said quickly. We are detecting unknown spikes. The commander did not look away from the screen. Focus on the battlefield, he replied. The human fleet had pushed deep into enemy lines. They did not hold a perfect formation anymore. Ships moved in small groups, changing direction, reacting fast. It looked messy. But it worked. They are not fighting like us, one officer said. There is no fixed pattern. Yes, the commander answered. They adapt. The enemy ships tried to surround them. Dark shapes moved from all sides, closing in like a trap. They are trying to cut them off, someone warned. For a moment, it looked like the human fleet was in danger. Then. A sudden change. Several human ships broke formation and rushed straight into the enemy lines. Direct charge, the officer said in shock. Why would they do that? The answer came quickly. Those ships did not fire immediately. Instead, they moved deeper, and deeper, until they were surrounded. Then. A massive explosion. A wave of energy burst out, hitting multiple enemy ships at once. Self-destruction attack, an officer whispered. The room went silent. They sacrificed themselves, another said. The commander's face remained still, but his eyes changed. They chose it, he said quietly. The battle shifted again. The enemy formation was broken from the inside. Human ships moved through the gap. Fast. Aggressive. They did not waste time. They are using the opening, the officer reported. Enemy defense is weakening. More human ships arrived from the edge of the system. Reinforcements kept coming. How many do they have? Someone asked again. Still, no answer. The commander watched closely. There was something more. Look at their movement, he said. The officers focused. Human ships were not just attacking. They were protecting. Some ships stayed behind, blocking enemy fire aimed at others. Smaller ships moved around larger ones, covering weak points. They are shielding each other, an officer said. They are working together, even under heavy attack. Another explosion lit up the screen. An enemy cruiser tried to escape the battle. It turned away, engines burning hard. Before it could move far. 3 human ships chased it. They did not stop. They followed it into the dark edge of space. They are hunting them, someone said. The commander nodded slightly. They are not letting them regroup. The enemy began to lose control. Their attacks became less organized. Their formations broke apart. For the first time. They looked confused. They are retreating, an officer shouted. Some of the dark ships turned away. Others tried to pull back. But the humans did not stop. They pushed forward again. No hesitation. No pause. The human voice returned on the channel. Stronger this time. We hold the line. The words echoed in the command room. The commander felt it clearly now. This was not just a rescue. This was a promise. Another alert appeared. Enemy core ship detected, the officer said. Central Command Unit. On the screen, a massive dark structure appeared. Larger than anything seen before. Covered in heavy armor. Surrounded by smaller ships. That is the source, the commander said. If that falls, the battle ends. The human fleet turned toward it. All of them. Like they already knew. They are targeting it, the officer confirmed. The enemy reacted fast. They moved everything to defend it. A wall of ships. A final defense. The space between them filled with fire. The battle reached its peak. Explosions. Collisions. Energy waves. Everything at once. Several human ships were destroyed trying to get closer. But more replaced them. Again. And again. They are not stopping, one officer whispered. They cannot be stopped, another replied. The commander watched the screen, his voice low. They will break through. And then. One human battleship pushed forward. Heavily damaged. Engines burning. Weapons firing non-stop. It moved straight toward the enemy core ship. Impact course, the officer shouted. The ship did not turn. It did not slow down. At the last moment. A bright light filled the screen. Then. Silence. For 1 second, everything stopped. Then the shockwave hit. The enemy core ship cracked. Split. And exploded. The dark fleet froze. Then. One by one. They began to fall. The commander took a slow breath. It's over, someone said. But he knew something else. It was not just victory. It was something bigger. Humanity had not just fought. They had changed the war. And above the broken world. The fire was finally starting to fade. The fire slowly disappeared from the sky. For the first time in many cycles, the space above the dying planet was quiet. No explosions. No enemy signals. No fear moving through the stars. Only silence. Enemy presence, 0, an officer said softly. No one cheered. No one moved. It felt unreal. The commander stood still, watching the empty space on the screen. The same space that had been filled with destruction, was now clear. "They are gone," another officer confirmed. The war was over. But something else remained. The human fleet. They were still there. Thousands of ships, floating across the system. Some damaged. Some barely holding together. But still present. Still watching. Still protecting. "Receiving new transmission," an officer said. The commander nodded. "Open it." The human signal appeared again. This time, it was clearer. Stronger. Direct. A face did not appear. Only a voice. Calm. Steady. "This is Human Fleet Command. The threat has been neutralized." The commander stepped forward. His voice was controlled, but heavy with everything they had lost. "You saved us." There was a short pause. Then the human voice replied. "We answered your call." The room remained silent. The commander looked around at his officers. Survivors. All of them. Then he asked the question that had been in every mind. "Why?" Another pause. Longer this time. As if the answer mattered. As if it carried weight. "Your signal reached us," the human voice said. It was weak, but clear. The commander waited. "That was not what I asked," he said. Silence again. Then. The human voice returned. Different now. Not just calm. Personal. "Long ago, we sent a signal like yours." The room became still. "We were afraid. We were losing. We did not think anyone would answer." The commander listened carefully. No one moved. No one came, the voice continued. The words were simple. But heavy. "We survived, but we remembered that moment." A quiet feeling filled the room. Something deep. Something human. "We made a promise," the voice said. The commander's eyes did not leave the screen. "A promise, that if we ever heard a call like that again." The voice paused. "We would answer." No one spoke. The commander slowly lowered his head for a moment. "Not in weakness. In respect. You came with a full fleet," he said quietly. "You risked everything." The reply came without hesitation. "That is what it means to help." Outside, the human ships began to move. Slowly. Turning away from the planet. "They are leaving," an officer said. The commander looked up again. "Wait," he said. He stepped closer to the console. "We do not even know your name," he said. There was a small pause. Then. "Humanity," the voice replied. Simple. Clear. The commander nodded slowly. "Humanity," he repeated. "We will remember that." The human fleet did not stop. They continued moving away. No celebration. No reward. No demand. Just silence, and departure. "They are not staying," one officer asked. The commander shook his head. They did not come to stay. He watched as the ships became smaller. And smaller. Until they were only distant lights. Then gone. The room remained quiet. The war had ended. But something had changed. The commander turned toward the large window overlooking the planet. The sky was still damaged. The cities were still broken. But the world was alive. "We rebuild," he said. The officers stood straighter. Hope had returned. Not from their own strength. But from something unexpected. Something unknown. Something human. Far away, beyond the edges of known space, the human fleet moved in silence. No songs. No pride. Only purpose. They had answered a call. And that was enough. The commander looked at the stars one last time. Then he spoke softly. In our darkest moment. He paused. Humanity answered. And this time. The stars did not feel empty anymore.